Hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm here today with Justun Fitness. Thank you, Justun, for joining me to talk about what we're going through and how to keep a positive mindset while pivoting in your business and what kind of new business environment we're going to see going forward. So thank you, Justun. If you want to just give us a few words on who you are and what you are all about.
Thanks, Michele. I'm Justun, formerly, I guess, of Justun Fitness. I'm kind of in the middle of two different businesses right now. I guess during this time, as we were talking before this, we thought that this would last like a couple weeks, maybe a month. Decided that it was in my best interest to close up my brick and mortar and move myself into the online space.
Yes, and I think you're not alone with that. I do have a friend who's also decided with her clothing boutique to move into the online space. She's taken this time to create a website and it just, being shut down for 3 months, having to worry about paying rent with nothing is, it just makes it very difficult.
Yeah, I definitely lost a lot of clientele. I definitely lost a lot of clientele over the period of time too.
Exactly, because that was the other thing. Once we initially, what I found initially was that there was just so much fear and such a shock. I think that especially at the beginning when things were changing on such a hour by hour basis.
Yeah.
And so I think everybody was just trying to process the whole shock to the system of everything just being canceled and shut down. I know for myself, I had vendor events booked for March, April, May, and I had made a conscious decision to make sure that I had it was on a regular basis that I had these vendor events happening. I stocked up at my supplier so that I could create all kinds of new jewelry and everything like that. So, so that we were ready to go. And then, of course, this starts happening with everything getting postponed first. And it was postponed first for a couple months. And then now it's been, of course, postponed or even till 2021. Right. So I think, and then after that, I found that everybody was really getting into just serving online and offering free webinars. And I know for the people in the fitness space like you, everyone was offering online fitness. Whether it be yoga classes, gym classes, whatever, everybody was there. And then there was almost like an overwhelm because there was just so much you could do online.
Yeah.
I know I got caught up in that myself. I was signing up for all kinds of webinars, probably the end of March into April. And then I just found that I couldn't go on at that pace because there's no downtime in between to even process what I've learned.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
I feel like I took some time to take a little bit of downtime.
Right.
It literally took me some time to sit down and weigh out the pros and cons of keeping my doors open versus closing them. And for me, I just found that there were way more pros to closing my doors than keeping them open because one, we didn't know when this thing was going to end because it kept getting pushed. At first it was 2 weeks, then it was a month, then it was another month. Now we're at another 2 weeks or whatever. And I mean, things are starting to open back up, but they're opening up in stages. So fitness isn't even one of those things.
And not fitness, right.
Opening, which I can totally understand because it's a big group of people. Gyms, as much as I want to say my gym was probably one of the cleaner ones for a group training facility, it's hard to manage keeping it super clean, and especially up to the standards moving forward that they would have wanted, plus the social distancing. My place just isn't big enough to sustain having smaller classes, and yeah, it just wouldn't have been a good look for me.
It doesn't make sense, obviously. You need the adequate revenue to cover your lease and things like that. So
I got lucky too because I just happened to be at the end of my 5-year lease. So my leasing company was going to go month to month. My original plan, honestly, was I was going to actually expand and grow into a bigger space across from where I was. But I didn't even get to the point of the lease and renovations and all of that stuff. And my current leasing company was like, it's probably, honestly, like, we're looking out for you. It's probably in your best interest at this point just to close up shop for now and figure it out, because we don't know what the fitness industry is going to look like. But I can tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of online stuff going on in the next little while for sure.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's a good thing that actually you weren't already in the process of having signed a lease for that bigger space and starting on some renovations, because I do know some people that were in that kind of situation as well. A friend who was opening a little travel boutique, and she had signed the lease and all, hadn't quite opened it, but it was all ready to go when this all happened. So, and of course, travel is the industry that was hit the hardest, really. So, yeah. So the online space is where we are now. Obviously, that's where everyone is.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, the overwhelm, and just being able to navigate through your online presence and people knowing who you are and that kind of thing. What did you have an online? You didn't have online classes or anything like that prior, did you?
No, we didn't have online classes prior. Like, as soon as we shut the doors, we kind of took the first week to kind of figure things out.
What to do.
And we started offering online classes. It just started like with a class in the evening. And even at that point, there was like myself and one of my coaches were like running classes from the gym live at 5 o'clock. And then it just, then obviously came to the point where I shut my doors, and I've been running classes 5 days a week at 5 p.m. from my apartment. And I have another coach that's been running classes at 6:30 in the morning from his place as well. So that's kind of the shift we had to make. And, I just feel like as an entrepreneur, like a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, it must be so crazy. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, like you have to learn to shift or pivot with whatever's going on. Now, I never thought in a million years that a pandemic would be the thing that would take my business out. But it's also given me an opportunity to try to create something new and create a new version of myself. So I'm really excited about that.
Right, exactly. And that's, I just heard an echo there, sorry. And that's exactly what speaking with other people on these interviews, we've been talking about the fact that it's given you the time to sit and be present with yourself and actually determine what your values are, where you're headed, what's important to you, because everything, all the external noise has been removed. So you have, you have that chance to just sit with yourself, determine your values, and go from there.
Yeah, and I feel like that was like probably the biggest eye opener for me. Like over the first little while. Once I decided to shut down, the biggest thing I think that came up for me was like self-worth. Like, I literally wasn't even charging what I felt like I was worth. Once I got into the online space and I realized like, I was still charging like around $100 a month for group stuff. Like, that's probably half the price of most group training places. And I realized like I could create an online program and I could provide a way more value, and I could literally charge what I'm worth now.
Right, yeah. And I find also what people were doing at the beginning was everybody was coming online, giving their advice, offering free webinars and other free workshops. Everything was free at the beginning, because everybody felt like that was what you had to do. It just didn't feel right to be charging people. I think just because of the fear and the whole pandemic and the uncertainty.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not sustainable.
No.
And I think that that obviously has really shifted now that we're 3 months in, and like a lot of this online is here to stay, right? Yeah. Certain things are going back, like hair, nail salons, and massage therapists. Those are hands-on, so they have to be done in person. Like, there is no choice. But everything else that can be done online, there's so much creativity that is possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in determining this. And the other thing is, when you were saying about entrepreneurs, it really, you pivot. You have to be able to pivot all the time. It's not just a one-time thing. You're kind of constantly doing that. You have being creative and deciding where to go moving forward, and you have to be ready for change. You have to be able to easily adapt to change, and that's what this is. We've lost our control.
Yeah.
And even look into the future, we don't know what the future holds, and we don't know when it's going to be, just as you were saying.
Yeah. And I feel like in the fitness industry, it's definitely like hugely up in the air right now where it's going. But I also feel like, if you look like at most stuff and them saying like, it's late 2021 or something before they feel like everything's going to get back to normal. Like I can't even imagine a gym setting, especially like the big gyms, you take, for example, anything like a Good Life, they're having to shift huge. And it's like going to it would be like going to my business. You have to like book class time, like basically have to book time to go into the gym. So the way they're basically trying to work it is you go into the gym, you book like a 90-minute time slot. After that 90-minute time slot, they literally spend a half an hour with a group of cleaners cleaning the whole entire gym. Then another time slot opens for 90 minutes. They clean for a half an hour and wipe everything down. Like, I just don't think that's sustainable, because what some people like about an everyday gym is just the fact that they can go whenever they want. They don't have to.
Yes, and also liking to be there with other people.
Yeah.
You can do your exercising at home, and people don't feel the motivation always to do so. That's why they would join a gym, so that they're there with other people doing the same thing at the same time, which motivated them. Yeah. And from a financial point of view, how is that possibly sustainable?
I don't think it is. Like, I mean,
no.
Big box gyms, unfortunately, their model is based on people signing up for a year and then hopefully not showing up very much. And then the other way they make a huge chunk of their revenue is by one-on-one training. I don't know how many people are, one, going to be comfortable going in and one-on-one training, and two, how many trainers are going to go back and feel comfortable one-on-one training people.
Right. Yeah. That's there's a lot of unknowns from that perspective.
Like for me, Michelle, I've had a couple of business coaches for a while, Joe and Sarah, and like I've really been intrigued. Probably like when I hired Joe probably about 3 years ago and met Sarah. Like Sarah came from the online fitness world, and I was kind of really intrigued by it, that you could have meetings like this over Zoom with people to check in on them. You can give them a training program, and you can help them with mindset and all this other stuff. So I think that's, when I had my initial talk after a couple weeks into this with Joe, it was like, sit down, make a pros and cons list, figure out if it's worth keeping your physical space. I think you're going to find that it's not worth it to keep it right now, and that you can make this shift. And then I literally just jumped into, like, Sarah's had 2 back-to-back online coaching programs, one to teach you how to build an online program, and 2 to teach you how to build up your influence. So like, I think the biggest thing I would say, if anybody didn't have a coach or a mentor to reach out to because they really don't know what to do, that's probably one of your best options, is to like reach out to somebody else who has been there and done it. Obviously that's probably their first time through a pandemic too.
Obviously
not through a pandemic. They'll give you a realistic look at what you're doing and the possibilities of where you can go with it and build influence. I mean, there's so many positives for me right now to shift into the online space. Not even just the fact to work from home. Once I build up my influence and my following, and I have a good client base, I can begin to build up another family and a community again. And I mean, they could be people from all over the place. It doesn't even necessarily have to be local. And it literally gives me the ability to work from anywhere and give myself a little bit more freedom, maybe travel a little bit. Like, I can still work and travel. I've over this time, I would say I've done a lot more, I guess, recently now, like spending time with my family. where I probably didn't do it quite as much before. I mean, I've always been a person that worked, I guess, in small chunks on my business and spend a lot more time either on myself or with family and friends. And I always found that very successful. Over the start of this whole entire thing, you know, unless you're like, you know, a wife with kids, like, yeah, you're staying home and spending time with your family. But like, for me, it was just like me and my dog for the first, you know, chunk of time. And I feel like that was really hard. And a lot of things came up. And like we were talking before, like a lot of emotions were coming up. You know, a lot of fear-based stuff. You know, I had a lot of stuff. Like I had the 5-year anniversary of the gym, but at that time I also knew I was shutting my doors and wasn't going to let the cat out of the bag, because people were going through so much stuff already that I was like, why tell anybody yet when they don't have a physical space to go back to and we didn't know? Because at that point, even they were talking about, and this is like going back quite a bit, they were talking about maybe like September or October for gyms to open back up. So it was like, I'm not going to keep a space, you know, that's costing me $5,700 a month.
Oh yeah.
I'm even taking like, you know, the rent relief. If I would have talked to my landlords and taken the rent relief, I still would have had to have, like with utilities and everything, probably like $2,000 a month coming in just to pay the bills. And, you know, on top of that, there was like my mom passed last year. So there was like Mother's Day, her birthday. There's been so many things. So like literally I would say up until this week, I had like 2 weeks where it was just an emotional roller coaster and it was processing stuff. And, you know, it's taken me probably a solid 3 months to really start working on building my online platform. And, you know, I want to build it and find a few people to put through it over the next few months, because it's a 3-month program, and then launch something in September and build up my social media and build up my influence. Like I basically took like my business page down off of Facebook. I took my business Instagram down because those people aren't even my ideal clients for my new business. Now they can still follow me because they probably still follow my personal Instagram, my personal social media, but like a lot of those people going forward won't even be, you know, who I consider ideal and who I want to work with.
Right. Okay. And it's really that's a great point, that you'll be able to work with anybody anywhere in the world. I think that's happening with a lot of industries, you know, not just fitness, but a lot of people, even business coaches and other coaches who would have live workshops or, you know, conferences and things like that. I think a lot of that is going to online, and which is great in that you can capture the global audience and you can work from anywhere and everything like that. It's still, I still miss the live events and things like that. And I'm sure we'll go back to having some, but I don't think we will have the same number of live events that we used to have.
No.
And everything's going to be so different. I was actually, when you talk about the fitness, just the hair salons alone, I've spoken to the woman who does my hair and owns the hair salon here. They're going to have less than 50% of the clients that they could normally have right now. So even that, how are they've been shut down for 3 months and they have to try to make it up. And what she's doing to offset that is working longer hours.
Yeah.
Again, you can't, they can't sustain this kind of working in the business like
Business
that.
owners can't, the economy can't sustain it either. Like it's just like, even for myself, I would have wanted having classes of like, if I had a full class, 15, 16 people, probably down to 6 people a class. And then I wouldn't be able to have classes with like 15-minute breaks in them because I'd have to take time and clean the whole place and the equipment and everything else. And then you're looking at, the cost of hand sanitizer.
Oh, and the cost of all that cleaning.
And, the fact that you might have to like be in there, getting your butt kicked with a face mask on. Like, I know there were so many, there were so many.
You can't actually, that's an important thing. I don't know how you could be exercising with a face mask.
Yeah. So like, I don't even know.
Because you can't breathe properly.
you can't breathe properly. So I don't even know moving forward, like how like the bigger places like Good Life are even going to handle that, or how they're going to work around it.
Or if they're even going to be around.
Yeah, or if they're even going to be around. I said this year will honestly probably be the death of the big box gym. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain this. Because
No.
I like, even when, a month or so ago when they started putting out, articles and stuff about their measures that they wanted to do to try to reopen by, I think it was just after Canada Day was their initial, we want to try to reopen by then. Like, there were a lot of comments on there, people being like, yeah, let me know how I can cancel my membership, because people just don't want to do it. And if you have things like one of my things that I was always big about at my facility was like TRX, and like TRX, you can do that literally from anywhere. So like that's going to be like the physical basis of my program, because you can literally take TRX straps, throw them over the door anywhere in your house, have a training program in front of you, and just work out from home. And any level of person can do it. You could be a beginner, intermediate, you could be an athlete. Like, it wouldn't matter, because there's all different variations of exercises you could do in order to keep yourself moving and motivated. Now, most places, like now, over this time, like we've just been running, I think we're on like week 15 of like body weight workouts. So we've had to just be very creative with what we're doing. But having a piece of equipment like a TRX that, yeah, in the initial might cost you a couple $100 up front, that piece of equipment will last you a lifetime. Like, they're indestructible too. Right? This is where the industry is, unfortunately, well, fortunately, actually, I would say, I'm not even going to say unfortunately, is fortunately going is that way. Now, if you, like, again, I was saying before, like, if you have, a one-on-one training business, or you have, a training business where you only had 4 or 5 people in at a time anyways, you're still going to thrive through this. But I think you're also going to do stuff like coaches and owners are going to be having consults and stuff over Zoom, just like we're having this chat
now. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And people are more comfortable too. And people have gotten comfortable with working out at home too now that they've had 3 months. I know a lot of people who went to gyms previously and are doing whatever, online classes they're taking. They've had 3 months to get comfortable. More people are going to be working from home as well, even going forward. While some people might be going back to offices, it's, maybe 30% of the office. Some of the big banks have said people aren't going back till 2021 to work downtown, in the office towers downtown, because obviously the elevators and everything like that. So people are comfortable with that, and it's definitely convenient.
Yeah,
definitely convenient to do your workout from home.
Yeah, 100%.
And now it's the whole concept of personal branding and creating your personal brand is more important than ever right now, because of the fact that everything's online and it's a crowded space.
Yeah.
And you have to have some way to stand out and build your community, and that's what that's the most important thing to do right now. Relationship building your community, like you say, taking time to figure out what you want to do, and allowing your emotions to, not pushing them off, because we have to allow our emotions to go through us. What we're dealing with is quite, it's huge. We've never gone through anything like this before. And I can't say that at the beginning of the year I would have ever imagined it. Even when I heard about coronavirus being over in China and into Europe, never would I have thought it would have come to this point.
Yeah.
To be the whole global pandemic that it is. So.
No, and I think too, like, going back to you, like saying, like, going through, you have to go through your emotions. You have to go through whatever you're feeling. Like, you can't also make your decision based on, like, if you're sitting there and you're kind of in a headspace of, you have some like fear-based emotions, like you can't make decisions in your life or in your business based on the fear you're going through, but you still have to go through that emotion let it go through you and process it. Like, I think one of the biggest things for me is like, I have a mindset coach that I've been working with for probably, I don't know, I would say probably a year and a half. And if I didn't have, you know, Joe and Sarah as coaches and Brenda as like my mindset coach, like who knows what kind of headspace I would have been in as soon as this hit. I mean, they were very smart to go, you know, 2 weeks, because if they would have said, we're going to shut everything down for 3 months, people would have went crazy. Like right off the hop. They would have been
that's true.
You can't imagine there would have been like mass protests and, you know, who knows what would have happened. Right.
Yeah, that's true. It's like anything, small little doses and little incremental steps. And then we end up 3 months later and nobody really saw that coming because it was 2 weeks or whatever.
And like we, you know, I mean, there hasn't been, I feel like it was in the initial they were talking about it, but like, we still don't even know if at some point, you know, a second wave is going to roll through either. Right. And if a second wave decides to roll through like in the fall or into the winter, like we're right back into lockdown again too. So if you have a physical space, like how are you going to try to build your business back up and then sustain it again if we have to go back into lockdown? Like, these are all things you have to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, you know, we're fortunate now. It's, you know, the weather's nice, so we can go outside. People can get outside. Things are opening. Only patios for, you know, for the restaurants because we're outside. Same thing. Everything's all good right now while the weather's nice. But if something, once we get to the fall, and if there, you know, it does come back, and we're into flu season as it is, and yeah, definitely that's and you can see it's happening. Well, you can see what's happening in the U.S. with after they opened up everything, and then in Beijing as well. They've now shut down again all the schools and everything.
Because they're already starting. Well, they're getting what they're calling their second wave right now. So, and yeah, I think it's, you know, I think honestly, whether you like him or not, Trudeau, I feel like has done a great job. I mean, if you compare him to our friends across the border,
yes,
you know, he's really tried to tackle this the best he could and in a timely manner, and he's trying to get the economy going again. So, you know, as much as this been, you know, people can look at this, Michelle, and say, you know what, I had to close down my business. This is a crappy time. Like, you know, coronavirus ruined my life. No, this gives you like, for me, this gives me a chance to recreate myself, for myself to be reborn. Like, I literally right now feel like I'm creating a program that I feel like is more me than ever. I can show up different on social media than I did for all my group training stuff. As you know, as a coach now moving forward, like I feel like there's so much more opportunity. And as much as I say that, you know, my clients that I had won't be my ideal clients moving forward, there probably will be a small group of them that will be, like you said, that are in the situation of they're working from home. So they don't have anything else to do. They need someone to get them moving, keep them, you know, motivate them, keep them a little bit more accountable. And if you can build something and offer something that's going to hit everything that somebody needs, like that's what we need right now. We need, like, you know, you're like, even with your group, like we need some positivity right now, because, you know, you can't say that the global energy right now is fantastic. It's nowhere close to that. Like,
right.
You know,
we're
in a time where there's a lot of things that have come to light and have had to been worked out. And like you and I were talking about too, is like, I was talking about this with some clients a while ago. It's like, yeah, we got to the point where, you know, everyone was like, oh my gosh, pandemic, and weeks are going by and weeks are going by. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now all these things that would come up in my regular everyday life that I have to deal with are now on top of this pandemic are surfacing, and I have to deal with all that. Plus, like, you know, a lot of people have had to deal with the same things, but a lot of people have also had to deal with things differently as well, depending on what they're going through. So it's been a crazy time, but I feel like if you sit back with it, like, there are a hell of a lot of positives to take out of this whole entire situation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's all how you choose to look at things.
Hmm.
You know, there's so many chances this has given us, and it is like it's like being reborn. I mean, even with people who had established businesses, it's like you're a startup again, and you're you know, basically starting your business again, because we've had to get creative and figure out what to do. Just the same thing for myself. You know, vendor tables and live events like that with 1,000 people and 2,000 people and whatever, not happening this year, not happening for 2020, and even in 2021. And it's not, I don't know that it's anything that I necessarily want to go back to anyhow. Again, it's just getting creative and in the online space. And what you know, the reverse, Amazon's been crazy. Canada Post is way behind because they're overwhelmed with online. And even though the malls in Toronto are going to open tomorrow, I don't know how many people are going to be going back. So like, it's so much easier to shop at home and have it delivered to you as well. I mean, you know, again, you miss going out and being with, you know, being around people, but everything is so different now too with this virus. It's now you're afraid to go near people, right?
Yeah. Like, I feel like the only thing initially that I was doing is like going grocery shopping once a week. That's the only thing.
Right.
Like, daily, I'd have to go out and like walk the dog, but like even like I don't know if it was what it was. It was like 2 weeks ago, like when like Marshall's opened back up. I didn't go like in the initial when they first opened, but I was like, I honestly, I was a pretty good online shopper for the start of the pandemic because like, you know, there were a lot of things that were online for much cheaper than you would have got them for in store because places felt like they needed to start offering discounts and trying to get people to buy products. And I just went honestly into Marshall's I was like, the last thing I honestly really need to like finish off everything is I just need like, you know, some socks and some boxers was all I needed. And I'm like, you know, I walked into Marshall's and I felt so weird.
Yeah.
I like literally just like went right over socks and boxers, got in line and got out. I was in and out to the door in like 5 minutes because I walked in and I was like, the energy in here does not feel like the energy like it normally is. Everything's so spaced out and yeah, it's really weird. So I can't even imagine. That's what I was going to touch on before was like, you know, there were some polls going on even in the fitness industry, like early on in it, as to whether or not people were like eager to get back to the gym once like gym doors opened up. And there was a high percentage of people that said they either weren't going to go back or they were going to wait like at least 6 months to a year before they even thought about going back. And I mean, the economy is not just going to go back. So I'm sure a high percentage of people that I lost because of job loss or whatever. Like those people are now going to have to financially recover before, you know, unfortunately to a lot of people, fitness is a luxury. It's not something that they feel like they totally need. Now there are people like myself who feel like that's an opportunity for me to invest in myself. I invest in coaches, a mindset coach, a health coach. Like I have coaches in basically every area of my life because I feel like it's very important to constantly be learning and growing and trying to create a better version of yourself. But like for a lot of people, you know, doing stuff like that is a luxury. If you have the opportunity to go online and say, buy jewelry from you versus, you know, going physically like to the mall to like a jewelry place, people are going to support you first before they're going to support.
Yeah, that's
why
exactly.
I don't feel the need to go to a mall. So like if one of my friends was like, hey, want to go to the mall today? I'd be like, hell no, I'm not going to the mall. I don't need to go.
No, you're right. And that's funny because I went to HomeSense on Friday and I hadn't gone since it had opened. I used to go to HomeSense quite often, just popping in to see what was new. And yeah, it just, the energy, it was, well, first of all, so many shelves were bare, but it just didn't feel right. And then I also ended up at Marshall's too, just to see. And again, I was in and out of there. It wasn't a place I was going to sit.
It was like, they're like picked clean.
Yeah.
That's like, I remember even like going to like, you know, driving down here to like the strip mall that Marshall's is in, like when they opened the door, and there was like a massive line. And I'm like, why is Marshall so important? Why is a place like IKEA so important, especially with IKEA? I'm like, I don't understand why a place like that, with the size it is, with the fact that families go in there and like you can't always control your kids and what you're doing. If you're in there, like I don't understand why places like that didn't just stay online, because they were still making, you know, a very good dollar keeping their doors closed and people picking stuff online and just going to pick it up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure, but it didn't. I don't know. I don't know what the mall's going to feel like again with the same thing, but it just the whole environment doesn't. Yeah. I don't see myself going there.
No.
Same thing. So, yeah, no. And I don't. Another thing is like concerts. I don't know how that'll ever, like, who knows? And that's something I enjoyed going to too.
I had like 3
Live
or 4 concerts. This was like my year of concerts. I had 3 or 4 concerts I was going to, and they all got pushed to 2021.
Yeah. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of changes going forward, but again, it's the opportunity. This is when innovation happens in these kind of times, and this is also a time when people are pushed into action. And that's what again, that's what it is going forward.
Yeah, this is where we're at. We just have to embrace it and shift with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you know, there's so many positives to it as well. So we so much opportunity for where we can go in the future with this as well. So thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you, Justin, for your time. I think we've been quite a while. So it was great talking to you, and I look forward to seeing this program in the future and everything that you are doing. Do you have anything established right now that you want to share with people? Because when I put this interview up, I'll put your links underneath, but I'm not sure if you're at that point yet or not.
Like all I can say at this point right now, like if you want to put it on, like my social media, my Instagram's Justin D'Olimpio. I'm the same on Facebook. Once I get things rolling, I'm sure they can look under that and see the kind of things I have in the works. Like right now, I just have some, you know, minimal online classes going while I prepare my online program.
All right. Okay. That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time. And it was great talking to you. And I look forward to the future.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.